start this little game going. What's the latest with our business plan? Competition.
Moving forward, every day.
Where are we with it? Where are you at?
Basically, we're gonna finalize the application today. Go through it after class. Fill everything out that we need to. We just finished doing the mock-ups, at least from a hand to paper standpoint, and then we're gonna move that into, actually having graphic mock-ups done.
Okay.
And then we should be ready to submit tomorrow, because it's due tomorrow.
What is the format of the business plan competition? Are you going to be in front of judges?
So it's a 10-minute presentation and 5-minute Q&A. So we do a 10-minute presentation, go through our presentation, and then a 5-minute Q&A.
Okay, you have literally 2 minutes before you lose their interest. So you really got to hit them between the eyes.
Do you have any tips or tricks to get it
You
for that
need the
first 2
sizzle
minutes?
stuff. I would watch some Shark Tank, okay?
Okay.
Watch 3 or 4 shows of Shark Tank, and the ones that Mark Cuban gave the money for, these people sounded good or they knew what they were talking about. Okay, so it's important, that your presentation looks good, that you look a little polished. The fact that we're doing this, in the last, few weeks, just on an email that we got, that in and of itself is pretty amazing. All right, we have a very busy class today, and we have one of my favorite people who will be coming up a little later in the class to talk about her career as an entrepreneur and reinventing themselves. All right, so let's just go around the room really quick. What happened new in the news this week that you found fascinating? Just by show of hands. Somebody raised their hand. Tell me, what did you like in the news this week, entrepreneur-wise? What did Apple do this week?
I was gonna say not Apple, but Uber's trying to fix their image.
Uber, really big problem. Everybody thought Uber is, the new Apple, okay? Until they realized that their CEO is a young fella in his 20s that's used to partying all night and is not your typical CEO. So he just can't run a multi-billion-dollar business, which Uber turned out to be almost overnight. To probably the chagrin of every taxi cab owner in America. I was reading Cranes this past week about this fellow who bought a dozen green taxi cabs. Anybody know what a green taxi cab is?
Yeah.
What?
Well, it's similar to a yellow cab, but the only thing is that the medallion on top is not expensive as the yellow cab. So
Right, but why do you think it's not as expensive? Who else knows? Eric?
Because you can't drive in the city?
That's right. It's an out-of-borough cab. It was genius because for years I could never get a cab in Manhattan to take me to Brooklyn or take me home to Long Island. They're like, no way. And unless you start calling the police, they're just going to drive away. It was illegal for them to do that, but they would do it anyhow. So now they came out with a medallion that's probably about 1/10 the price.
Yes.
But you have to stay within the boroughs and you have to stay at the airport, so you have some heavy restrictions on that. But yeah, Uber is certainly something to be reckoned with. Yeah.
Apple released the new iPhone and the iPad.
Right. The stock just jumped and they came out with something called Apple Red. What is Apple Red?
So nice.
It's for AIDS, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a donation. It's a donation angle that the stock actually popped quite nicely. So that was pretty exciting. All right, we talked last week about marketing, and without marketing your business, you'll never have a business. It's the single most important thing, unless you're a ubiquitous company like a Facebook. Anybody ever see a Facebook ad on television? You see a lot of Apple ads, right? Okay, so there's a big difference. How many of you think Apple is going to go into the social media business by possibly buying Twitter or Snap, just by show of hands?
I hope
Not
so.
too many. How many of you think they should be in that business? Why not? They have all the phones, they have all the customers. Why should, yeah, Joe?
Because they don't really innovate like we want as a social media, because the social media is supposed to innovate every day, not every 5 or 10 years, because we still seeing the same iPhone every year. They just make it more smaller, but everything you can do, you can just give in with an update.
Okay.
I think for a company, when you're as big as Apple, and then you're trying to make a shift into a space like social media, I understand that they have a lot of capital, and that's probably why they're trying to do it. But it's just a whole different ball game. They're gonna spend a lot of money there, and it's gonna be a lot of money.
Right.
And they're like primarily like a product-based company, so they create like physical products generally. So I don't see
Generally speaking, but they also make a lot of money from their apps.
how.
Okay, and ongoing money from apps, people using them. And I use Apple Music, Amazon Prime for music, I mean, Spotify. I mean, there's probably gonna be room for all of them, that everybody's gonna find their own little niche, or they get acquired. That's what generally happens. It's sure gonna be fascinating to see who buys Twitter, because Twitter's a broken down company, but as long as our Twitter in chief keeps using it as his mechanism, it keeps getting plenty of things. Yeah,
I was gonna say, I think the world of social media moves too fast for a company like Apple.
really.
Like it's
Okay.
always changing, and Apple, I don't think Apple can be able to keep up with it.
Right. So where do you see Apple's growth going? How do you see them expanding?
Cars. I don't know if you
That's
guys see the
interesting,
Apple
really.
Car.
Cars, Apple cars.
They've been experimenting with self-driving cars.
Yeah, Intel just made a big investment in Mobileye. Okay, that's the technology used to drive a lot of these wireless cars. So Intel, as a chip maker, trying to save their own ass and doing that. Interesting. What else, Apple? What else do you think, Apple?
I was listening. That said, the CEO of Apple's like obsessed with augmented reality, and maybe that's their next move, to go into some kind of AR space.
Right.
Like with Pokemon Go, for example, where the characters are overlaid in front of the screen, something along those lines. Maybe glasses or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Would make sense, right? It's a fit.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried the watch, not much great success with that watch.
I think they might go more into like smart home products. Like they already have Google Home. Now they might want to go into something like smart bulbs, smart fridges, things of that nature.
As you see, they very rarely buy companies. Okay, they bought Beats and people didn't really get that. They didn't understand, except making Dre a billionaire. You know, what was that all about? I mean, it wasn't a cool factor thing. It wasn't that Beats was gonna make it, you know, and I guess the jury's still out whether Beats was a good investment for Apple. How many of you still use Beats earbuds? About half of you. Okay, so I guess it's a really good product. All right, today we're gonna watch a little video on people performance. I would say that employees and having the right people running your company is probably the single most important thing as you as an entrepreneur are gonna be able to do. And having those people skills, okay, without getting too emotional, without getting too uptight, because people are very sensitive, especially when it comes to a boss situation, or asking for raises, or money, or giving more responsibilities, or delegating duties. I mean, that's the most important thing to grow your business. Because as we said, you can't do it by yourself. You need a good team. And a good team is people that can complement each other. People that are good in accounting, people that are good in organization, people that are creative, people who are good at writing. All of these things come together to make a very successful company. So we're going to hear a couple of things today from our Young Entrepreneur Series on that thing. Without the accountability, you just have employees. So if you don't know what they're doing and they're not going to report back to you in some sort of logical fashion, then they're just going to drift away. Okay, so it's very important that you recognize it's not just hiring employees, it's making them accountable, doing some sort of reporting so you understand what they're doing, and they're taking it a next level. They're sending it out to everybody. Okay, especially if it's a small bootstrap entrepreneur business, everyone wants to make sure everyone's working, especially if they're all in for a little piece of the business, and they want to make sure everyone's holding their own weight. Okay. Okay, today we're going to hear from Dimi and Flavio. So let's hear from Dimi first.
Alright, so my idea was MyFit. It's pretty much an app which combines Weight Watchers and Uber. So it's pretty much an online personal trainer and nutritionist. My idea was first to market college students because the regular college student, their diet is normally like very poor. They don't have time to work out most of the times. Yet like young people are still like really into themselves, their health, their physical state. So I wanted to put in like the basic calorie tracker and like database that Weight Watchers has about all like the food you eat, the workouts you do, and like how many calories it burns. But I wanted to make it personalized for each user. So the app would pretty much have a list of questions, and it would take a profile for each user. They would fill it out. They would select like options they like Italian food, that they prefer cardio workouts, their weekly schedule, when are they free to work out, how busy their lives are, so that you can track how active they are. And pretty much it creates your own profile and it recommends you the workouts and the diet you should have. So pretty much it would come in two packages. The base package would just be subscription based, and after asking the questions and you enter like the schedule and everything, it gives them a list of diets and workouts to choose from, which I would have to hire personal trainers, and like these diets and workouts will be stored in the database and they'll be there forever and be recommended to each user pretty much when they go online. Secondly, there would be a premium package. This is where Uber comes in. So there is an oversaturation of trainers in the market just because pretty much to be a trainer, you kind of need to have a gym or to be online, and it's kind of hard to find clients. So with this, it would connect trainers and users pretty much. For more of the users that can afford trainers, this would pretty much recommend trainers in their zip code that meet their that could satisfy their needs. So pretty much, if you're looking to build strength and like a high protein diet, you could get in contact with a trainer who specializes in that, rather than a trainer whose most specialty is like Pilates or yoga or cardio, different types of workouts. And this, they would be paying the subscription based as well as as well as being connected with the trainer whose rates will be set at their individual price, which will be calculated using algorithms, like including like how good the trainer is, their quality, their recommendations, their years of experience. So the benefit for trainers is just the oversaturation of the market. All trainers, they have a fee based on the services performed, and obviously the highest rated trainer costs the most. But the thing is, trainers will get paid directly, and kind of like Uber, I'd get like a 25% cut, the business would. And over years of experience, like say a trainer has a client for at least 6 months, my cut would decrease and their cut would increase with the business. So it kind of incentivizes trainers to stay on the program with their clients, so they could make more money in the future this way. The thing is, like a big risk with Uber and Airbnb is that once it puts the two parties in contact with each other, the user can just call the driver or whatever and tell them, I'd rather pay you at this price, that way I wouldn't get the cut and they could still do their business. The thing is, with this, the users would still be paying for the base subscription if they want any access to that at all, which I feel like is a very beneficial thing for them, so they would pay for that. And there would be like goals and incentives for long-term users. For example, trainers would get more money, long-term users would obviously get more deals. There'd be frequent deals like Uber does to minimize this risk. And it would ultimately connect people through a trusted network, which in my, what I believe is the best way for a business to run, just because there's less costs on my end, and pretty much the trainers and I'll be making money from trainers and users. Mostly users, trainers would just be connected with me, but through their service, I would be making money. And ultimately, this could be expended to like many things. So for example, if you need a housekeeper, you could do a MyClean just for housekeepers. So housekeepers will be recommended. You would just go online and look for a housekeeper or a handyman or a plumber in your area. And I had the idea of marketing this product especially just because it's fitness for everyone. anybody with any type of body can actually go online and find out the best workout for them. So you could have a client that is in amazing shape and is just trying to define their six-pack more. They could find a trainer that suits for them. But you could also have an overweight client who's trying to slim down, and they could go online, enter their profile, and get a recommended diet and a trainer and everything. And I feel like it's pretty good considering today's society, and it would incorporate all markets pretty much. That's kind of it.
Beautiful. So how many do you think you would actually use this app, by a show of hands?
I have commitment troubles with these apps.
Depends on the cost.
Right. What would the cost for something like this be?
Well, for the base package, it would be a set cost, so that would have to be calculated to how much would be profitable without losing customers. I don't think it'd be more than $10 to $15 a month.
Right.
And the trainer package, that would depend on the trainer fees.
Now, would the trainer work like Uber, where you set your time and they come to your home, or is it FaceTime? Because FaceTime's another good way to actually do this as well.
If we do FaceTime, it would be with the base package, where people at home would just receive online workouts, kind of like you buy those DVD sets of how to work out, and like the trainers would come over for the more expensive premium package.
Right. And you would split it, what would be a split? Like an Uber split, you're
Yeah, like
thinking?
an Uber split. So the trainer makes 75% of the profits. I would make 25. Of course, that could be calculated differently. And over time, when the trainer keeps the clients longer, I would take less a cut, and he or she would take more.
Yeah, it's a good incentive because you don't want them taking your clients away from you, which they may or may not do. If they know they're going to lose new customers that you're going to bring them, they'd probably be a little suspect, especially if you set them up and you catch them a couple of times. All right, very, very good idea. Well done. So that's an idea that actually can get done. I mean, that technology for that app and that Uber software that's out there absolutely exists today. You could buy it, you could lease it, and you could try it for just about everything. We've talked ad nauseum how I believe everything. We're in an Uber society, whether it be a manicurist, a haircut, a trainer. Ultimately, everyone's coming to your house. Okay, that's going to be happening sooner rather than later. The office, your home, and things of that nature. Okay, today we have a very special guest speaker, somebody who I've worked with in the past. And last week I was lucky enough to show you the trailer of the movie that we made together. Sue Kramer is the writer, the director, and producer of this movie that I was the executive producer and helped finance. So you're going to get to hear her story today on how she did it and where she's going in the future. So without any further ado, let's give it up to Sue Kramer.
Can I just sit here?
Sure.
Hi, guys. Really happy to be here. Really happy that Ted invited me. And I live in Brooklyn, so go Brooklyn. Many thoughts in terms of being in an entrepreneurial class. I'm absolutely an entrepreneur, even though I am a writer, producer, director in terms of my bigger title of my career. I have many other businesses. I started at age 8. I knew what I wanted to be. I was one of the few people that people would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I'd say, "I want to work in the movie business." And my parents had nothing to do with the movie business, zero. And my dad, who was an Uber scientist, would say, "I wanted to be a DJ when I was your age. Like, you'll get over that kind of thing." I never got over it. I wrote my first screenplay when I was 14. Ended up very, very much knowing that I wanted to go to UCLA Film School, which was a very far reach for me because I grew up in New Jersey and no one was going to UCLA from New Jersey. And I did it. I got to UCLA Film School, which was one of the top 3 film schools in the country, and still is. And I graduated, and I will say on point to the video that was shown, the people that I met at UCLA, my posse of filmmakers, have helped me tremendously. One of them, like Ted, was an executive producer on the film, Alexander Payne. He directed Sideways in Nebraska and the George Clooney movie, which I'm forgetting the name, and is an Academy Award winning filmmaker. He was one of my pals in film school. He executive produced Gray Matters. That opened up other doors for me. So your pals that you meet here are absolutely instrumental in terms of, if it's 1, if it's 10, whoever it is, those people are really crucial in terms of moving forward in life. I was lucky enough to, between luck and talent, in college, because I knew so much that I wanted to do, I was all about internships. I every summer, anytime I had, living in LA, I picked my dream internships. They weren't posted. I would say, I want to go work for Kevin Costner on the Warner Brothers movie that's coming out. And they'd go, but they're not hiring interns. And I'd say, but they haven't met me. So I would figure out a way, and I'd finagle a way to get in, to meet with whoever, and I'd get an internship. And I'm telling you that to say that many times there's many rules in terms of what doors are open, and they seem like, oh, but that's not available, and that's not closed, and that's not posted. And I'm somebody that very rarely takes no for an answer. I mean, really rarely. If it's a definitive no, okay, you gotta walk away. But if there is the slightest bit of light cracking through a door, I will get in there if that's my determination. And that's what I'm telling all of you, that whatever your dreams are, as impossible as they may seem, like that's not reachable, he's over there or she's over there or that's over there, they can be. It's just about making the path to get there. So I ended up working in the studio system as a screenwriter. I started out only as a screenwriter, even though I always wanted to produce and direct. And right out of film school, I sold my first screenplay and got a really top agent, and it was for probably actors that you've never even heard of. Ted, I'm sure, and Sarah has, but Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter are their names. And I sold a screenplay to them, to a studio called TriStar, and what happened was very similar to what happened in a lot of my career and a lot of screenwriters' career, which is that you sell a lot of screenplays in Hollywood for the studio system that never get made. For one reason or another. Some of them don't deserve to get made. Some of them, I made a movie, was making a movie with Meg Ryan. She got divorced right before that was gonna start and decided she wanted to pull out. I was making a movie with Julia Roberts. She got pregnant right before we were supposed to start the movie and didn't realize that she was, it was kind of, surprise baby. And so different things happen along the way, and you kind of gotta go with the punches. So what I learned to do to kind of go through the emotional upheaval of Hollywood is I diversified. I put myself into other businesses that kept my creative and business spirit alive. So I started my own production company by the time I was 30, called Bella Films. I helped other filmmakers. I did film consultations and would talk to people about how to get their movies made, also lectured, all of that. That was kind of part of my film business. Then I, kind of jumping ahead, but I have a daughter who is 12 years old. At 8 years old, like me, she knew what she wanted to do. She wants to do all kinds of creative businesses. She came up with rolling these little marbles. She learned how to make marbles in an Italian marbleized fashion at age 8 with her best friend. And she said, I really want to make this into a jewelry company. And I was like, okay, what are we going to call it? She said, let's call it Marvelous instead of Marvelous. I was like, that is such a flippin' great name. Are you kidding me? I said, well, you got to make a business plan. You and your friend got to make a business plan. She's like, okay. They present us with, we want to sell jewelry and we want to give 10% to saving the gorillas, 10% to cancer, 10% to autism, 10% to AIDS, 10%. I mean, until we would have nothing. I said, okay, this is a good plan. We're going to give to charity, but we gotta keep some to ourselves, and then we're also gonna give back. Well, the small part of the story, the short version is that this tiny idea coming from my daughter and her best friend, we're now in 14 stores. We've been shot for Vogue. We were in New York Magazine's The Cut. We have been worn to the Oscars. We have Christy Turlington, Amy Poehler, Alan Cumming, Goldie Hawn, all of the Hawns actually, at Hudson, Kate Hudson, all wearing them. Selena Gomez wore them to her birthday party, all from a tiny idea that started by us moms wearing them. A fashion boutique stopped us on the street and said, "Is that Marnie?" which is a very famous kind of fashionista, very expensive designer. I said, "No, it isn't Marnie, it's Marvelous." And she said, "Oh, where do you get Marvelous?" And I said, "Well, maybe we should come in and do a little presentation for you." And she said, "I'd love it, bring in the collection." Brought the collection, and the store said, "I'll take everything." And that was the beginning. And then now, 14 stores later, and the mission of our company, which is going to take me to the next part of my speech, is that we give back. So we have a company that gives 10% on every single sale that anyone makes from our website, which we have a gorgeous website called marvelous.com, that we give to either Every Mother Counts, which is about global maternal health, because there's about 700,000 deaths a year that can be prevented because there's all these communities around the world, the Bronx being one of the worst, that mothers die for no reason whatsoever, because they're not trained, because they haven't gone to the right place, because they don't have the education. So Christy Turlington, who's an ex-supermodel, created this foundation, which is now going into communities from the Bronx to Uganda and creating maternal health. So we give 10% to that, and we give 10% to a seeing eye dog company that trains dogs that didn't make the cut to be the best seeing eye dogs, but are just under, and they end up being placed in a family afflicted with autism, who has a child afflicted with autism, and that dog is taken care of by this non-for-profit for the dog's life. It's food, it's veterinary care, all of that. So those are our two places. And our girls at age 10 got to go to the Met Museum, to the Autism Speaks Ball. They were asked to speak at Rutgers University at age 10 at the Make Your Mark conference, at being two of the globally conscious entrepreneurs in the country at age 10. And I'm one of the CEOs of the company, and I design for the company, and now I deal with all the fashion magazines in the company, and me and the mom are the marketing people in the company. Then recently, Ted knows that I've collected people my whole life. It's been my thing. It's been, and it hasn't just been in the movie business. It's been wherever I go. I've lived in New York, I've lived in LA, and I've lived in Paris, both equally. And wherever I go, I'm a people person, but I've connected with people. And connecting with people is one of the biggest tools I can give to you in terms of what you want to do in terms of your businesses, because I've connected with people from every level, whether it's the cab driver who's telling me a story about coming from Haiti and telling me the entire, what his plight has been, or it's Calvin Klein who became a friend. I connected with these people, and they've become my Rolodex, and they've become, every year, I get more people in my Rolodex. So I've created a business recently, which I have very big plans for, called Connecting Dots Guru. And what it is, are you gonna try to pull it
Yeah.
up?
Mhm.
Okay, Connecting Dots Guru. What it is it is using my Rolodex, and I connect people for a fee. So I used to be, everybody would call me and go, "Sue, do you know the best trainer out there?" "Oh yeah, just call Daniel, he's the best guy." "Sue, do you know who could read my script?" "Call this person." "Sue, do you know?" And I'd get all of these calls, and for free, I was giving out all this information. Everybody would make a monetary amount of money from that connection, but I didn't make any money. So I realized, okay, it's time for me to make money on these connections. But I have a very philanthropic heart about how I see the world. So my business model is, okay, so this is connecting the dots. So can you go to services? Okay, so I have 3 levels of service. I have orange dot, yellow dot, blue dot. So orange dot is that I make a connection with somebody, and that can be anything. Scripts, it could be interior design, it could be trying to brand yourself, it could be finding the ultimate employee, financial advisor, designer, whatever they could be. I connect you with the person that I think. And this isn't because of how the internet works of knowing everybody. This is my connections. So I connect and then I take a fee. So if I make a connection with somebody and I say, you would be great to meet with this person, you make the connection, and then I take a 10% kind of finder's fee of your first year's salary on getting you that connection. The other thing that happens with every connection I make, that both parties, the person I'm introducing you to and you, have to make a contribution to charity. And so this is my model. So then the second part is that I critique scripts and I strategize with people about their careers. So I sit down with them and I go, okay, what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want to do with your life? What's your biggest dream that you want to do? Let's write it down and think about paths to get there together. Do you need to brand yourself? Do you need a website? I design websites. I do it. How do you get there? How do you make yourself branded? Because making yourself branded is just as important as making a company branded. I do that. And then third, I do my kind of pro bono work, which is, for instance, I'm recently divorced and I met a woman who's a mess and she needs a divorce support group. I introduced her. Am I going to take a fee for that? No, because this woman needs my help and she's going to gain, but she's going to donate. So she's going to make a contribution to one of my 4 charities. And my 4 charities are ACLU, Planned Parenthood, the Malala Fund, and Save the Children. So there's something for everybody. If something doesn't, it doesn't float somebody's boat to do Planned Parenthood, that's cool. They're gonna do one of the others. And they have to be accountable. So every time I make a connection, somebody makes a donation and they send me the receipt. I say, take a picture, send me the receipt. Now my goal in terms of this business is I plan on taking this business global. I plan on teaching businesses and all of you for making your business that if every single person in this world, from the Googles to the Facebooks to your trainer business, made a donation on every transaction, we could end world hunger and we could do so much change in the world if every business made, and it could be as little as 50 cents in terms of every transaction that was made. So I'm trying to teach that there is a circle of kindness that has an energy, and that with energy creates energy. Energy creates success. Energy creates empowerment. So with everything that I'm doing, including my film business, my jewelry business, and this, I believe very much in paying it forward. And that doesn't mean that you can't make money. You can make money paying it forward. So that's my shtick.
All right, beautiful. A lot of this is the first time I'm hearing a lot of these great ideas, and hey, you take somebody who's trained in film from clearly, if it's not the top film school in the world, it's certainly the top 2. And here you're taking something from writing scripts, and you know how many times people come to me the same way, hey, they don't know anybody. My nephew is a screenwriter, could you connect them up? You know, when you're in the entertainment business, there's so few people in the entertainment business on the high levels to begin with. I mean, there's plenty of people who know how to run the props or run the sets and do the walkie-talkies and gaffers, but guys who know how to get things done, producers like Sue, people like myself, need to get paid for that advice. I mean, you can't just hey, we'll read a script, or if she loves the script, maybe she'll become a partner of the script. Part of the success of Gray Matters, was having Alexander Payne, which was Sue's good friend. Very big name. He just came off of Sideways.
Yep.
Right around when this. How many of you seen the movie Sideways with Paul Giamatti? Okay, it's a great movie. Won an Oscar, I believe.
Did.
Right. It was the underdog and came out of nowhere to win the Oscar, and so it's putting things together. Whether it's, like she said, the Uber thing for this, if she developed an app for this type of business, whether it be for life coaching or this type of coaching, it would be a real simple, easy way for her to do this business. As far as the donation business, something that's not been done effectively at all is the texting of the donations. I mean, I have technology where you can actually text every month, and it would be a residual ongoing donation to Planned Parenthood for $5 a month that you would text, whatever it is to the 5-digit code, and automatically your phone gets billed every month. So there would be no excuse for not donating or not getting something like that in. All right, how about a few questions for Sue?
What was the first movie you ever worked on?
Bull Durham, which was this Kevin Costner movie with Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins. I got coffee and French toast. I ran around as what's called a PA, so it's the lowest on the totem pole, but I learned how to, be a good assistant. And I have to say that, being a good team member is huge. Is that wherever you are in the team, is you gotta have a really good attitude. Unfortunately, the millennial generation is a generation that's very much privileged in terms of thinking like, we can do anything, we can be Facebook, we can do anything. And they don't have the same thing that I grew up in, which is like you have to work your ass off before you really get anywhere. There's a different mentality, and my advice to that is, it doesn't matter whether these things exist. Facebook, you can become rich at 22. Yeah, you could. But that doesn't mean that you don't want to be a team player. Ted knows this, and Alexander actually gave me the advice, is that when I was directing my first movie, and I'm about to direct 2 more in the next 2 years, I had written many movies, but I didn't really know exactly how I was going to be directing a big, and Alexander said, the first week you're in production, have a party at the end of the week at your house, and just to let award everybody the first week. And I've always done that with everything now that I do. I reward people with, you've done a great job. And we ended up having a martini truck every single Friday at the last shot of the day, which is late, 11 o'clock at night. Guys are exhausted. The guys would be putting gaffer lighting back into the truck. They'd put lights, twinkle lights up into the truck, and we'd have a martini party, and then we'd get people driven home who couldn't drive home, and just to reward everybody. And I think that on the video, there was just so many different things that I so agreed on in terms of who your team is, how you build your team, and how you all get along. And that even though I was the director, who's captain of the ship, right, on a movie, I treated my PAs with so much respect, because I was treated really badly as a PA on many movies, including the Kevin Costner movie. He was evil to me. Ran into him 10 years later, and he apologized. And he said, I'm so glad I ran into you. I was awful to you. I just had my 3rd baby. I hadn't slept. I was awful. I was also thinking I'm a big movie star, and I could do anything. But people at different times act differently, and I always think, whoever you're dealing with, I don't care if they're President Obama or you're dealing with the guy who's sweeping the floors, they all are on the same level to me, and I mean that. It doesn't mean that I revere Obama more. I do. But in terms of respect, that just always dealing with people with respect is huge, and on an equal footing in terms of that. And I think it goes a long way. because that person who's on an really, you know, beginning status in the company will feel good when you make them feel good in terms of what they're doing, even though it might be small in terms of the big scope of things. And I also think that, you know, it's this idea of working together in the circle that I'm creating. You know, it goes so far in terms of just, you know, dealing with kindness. Kindness has energy, and you can see it, you can manifest it, and dealing with money and ideas and all these things. But the more that you deal with kindness, you'll see that the more doors really open.
Sure, more money you're gonna make. We talk about that all the time. It costs no extra money to be nice to people. As we talk about waiters and waitresses, how they can be nasty when their whole tip determines on their attitude is really crazy. Could you talk a little bit about women in Hollywood? Because that's obviously a very hot topic right now. Very hot. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So I am in two guilds. I'm in the Writers Guild, which is the Screenwriters Guild, and I am in the Directors Guild, which is you know, directors of movies. In the Writers Guild, there is 18% of women are working in Hollywood. In the Directors Guild, 6% of women are working in Hollywood. So I am a absolute minority. I have dealt with my entire career with being a minority. And the way that I've gotten through with that is that it has to be that I ignore it, and that I walk into a room and I don't see myself as a minority. I walk in with confidence and power. And my name's Sue, and my first agents said, "Oh, you gotta meet, I just think you gotta meet with so-and-so, he's the president of Paramount Studios." And I was like, oh my God, Paramount Studios. And he said, "Yeah, I really think you guys are gonna get along." And I said, "Okay." And he said he came from where you came from, where you grew up, blah, 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 blah. And I said, "Okay." That was one of my first really giant meetings in my life. And I walked in and he said, "So, I heard great things, da 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 da." And he said, "So," and I kind of what just happened here when Ted said, like, "So what do you got in terms of like homework," but you didn't know that was due actually.
Right.
He said, "So what's your movie idea?" And I was like, oh my God, like I was just coming in for like a meet and greet kind of movie, but like I immediately was like, this is my chance. I'm not gonna meet with the president of Paramount Studios again. So I was like, yeah, my movie idea. So it starts with Act 1, and I literally flew from the seat of my pants. And I pitched him a movie that just came off the top of my head, and he said, "Let's make a deal." And that was for Julia Roberts. And he said, "Let's get Julia on the phone." He got Julia on the phone. We sold the movie within 6 hours of that meeting. And I got this nickname as Tsunami. That I could walk into a room and I could create that. And all of you can too. It's just about having confidence, and sometimes you gotta just make it up and go with the flow. Don't lie about anything, but sometimes you gotta be really, 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 really quick on your feet. And so I think that that's my asset in terms of being a minority in the film business. The film business is trying to change. There's a lot going on. There's people like Ryan Murphy, who you guys might know, who's done Glee and who has the new Bet and Feud on right now. Has done tons and tons of TV. That did the O.J. Simpson miniseries. Ryan Murphy's one of the few people in Hollywood who's now made a absolute commitment, a signed contract that helps hire 50% women and 50% men and minorities. In terms of race minorities on every single production he does. We're trying to get that to happen more, but that is like monumental.
Right.
And
Where do you
that's,
see the movie business going? Obviously, this year's Oscars, was minority driven.
Yes.
The year before, after the protests came on, more minority movies were being made. Where do you see that going, and the economics of the movie business, how it's changed from when we made Grey Matters 10 years ago?
yes. I think that the movie business has changed tremendously in that it used to be that we had 3 tiers, low budget, mid budget, and high budget movies. That was always kind of what's happened in the past 20 years, let's say. But now there's no middle anymore. That's gone away. So you're either talking about these tentpole Marvel movies, giant movies, or really giant movie comedies like Bridesmaids or, you know, The Hangover, kind of like very big, what we call commercial movies. Or we're going back to a model that was popular 15 years ago, which is making a movie for $1 million with big stars, by the way, because technology has changed. So when I shot Gray Matters, we were the first second, Collateral, Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx made the first movie with a digital camera called Collateral. We were the second. Everybody else to that point shot on film. And I was terrified. I was like, I grew up in film school cutting film and knowing film and being tactile with film. So I had to learn the ropes. Now, film is obsolete. Even Kodak is closed. So there's really like 1 out of 1,000 people making a movie on film these days. So the digital age has made that anybody can make a film even on your phone. You can make, Paranormal was basically made on a phone. It was that, I mean, it was 1 step above a phone. It was just a junk digital camera that was probably a $250 camera. And look what happened with that movie. I don't know if you guys know it, but it made over $100 million. And now there's Paranormal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I think that the future of the movie business is very much about all of these different places. You were asking about Apple. I mean, Apple has TV. I disagree with you all in terms of that. I think Apple has massive potential to do whatever they want in anything involving media is what I think. I don't think a car would be great for them, although I can see a dashboard and all of that, maybe an app within the car. But, you know, I think that Apple could be, look at Amazon. Did we think the people who were just starting at selling us books were now going to be one of our main places where we go to watch TV? Everybody's watching.
And along the line, as we've discussed, they massacred the retail industry. Just today, listening on the radio, some of the biggest department store chains, Sears, looks like they may be going out of business any day now. Okay, so they're taking down shopping malls. You're going to be able to rent apartments in big shopping malls in the next few years because they're all going to be going out of business.
So I think that Amazon is such a good example of starting from a garage of selling books to now looking at what they're doing, and their potential is exponential, as I think is Apple. I think that Apple will become a media company that makes movies and all that as well. Because
that's a good prediction because, as she said about Amazon now is the largest cloud provider in the world. Did you know that? Yeah. Okay, the largest cloud provider in the world. Now they're doing movies. They're buying their own planes. They're competing with FedEx. I mean, so from something that's not in their core competency, what do they know about planes? Well, they ship more product than anybody else, you know? Yeah, Eric.
What do you think about Netflix? Being that all these companies are going to be media companies, they're going to have a lot of competition now.
Netflix has rolled out their company so beautifully in terms of how they've done it, that I think that they're the same. I think that Netflix now is known for doing some of the best series on TV. You know, they were only a rent a movie, you know, company kind of thing, or stream a movie. And now I think that their stocks have gone up and down over the years, but in terms of what they mean in the business, they're massive. It's just like Netflix is now the equivalent of saying Paramount, Universal, Netflix. Like it's right in there. And that started with a tiny, really brilliant idea of just being able to get a movie in a day kind of thing and send it back and all of that stuff.
You know the economic model of Netflix? I don't really know exactly what it is. What does a filmmaker get when his movie goes up on
Well,
Netflix?
This is what we were going to talk about in terms
Sure.
of, okay, so Gray Matters. So it used to be, there's still a little bit of a problem. They probably have another 2 years to get through this at Netflix. So Netflix has 2 libraries. Netflix has the streamable library, which is that basically anything that's in that library. I'm making up a number right now, but let's just say it's 50,000 titles. And anything that you stream, you pay your monthly fee and that you can stream. Every time that is streamed, the filmmakers or people who had points in that system get a tiny residual of that stream. Their other model is you get the DVD in the mail. That library is 1 million titles versus 100,000 or 50,000. So they have a much bigger library. They have all the old movies from Hollywood. They have all the collections of like Hitchcock, this, that. And also certain people that just don't want to give away. They don't want to make the deal because the streamable deal is not a great deal for filmmakers. You get very little, but everyone is streaming now.
Right.
So you're losing, even though it seems like a bad deal and that you make more on the video that's sent, it makes no sense anymore. You have to be both. You have to be able to be streaming right now because you guys probably watch movies on your phones, right? Do you all? Raise your hand who watches a movie on your phone. Okay. As of 5 years ago, that statistic completely changed. People were watching on their computers. No one was watching on their phones. Now everyone's watching on their phone, so everything has to be streamable. So it ends up being that every time you're pressing a button, you're doing okay by it.
So I was telling them this story about 15 years ago. I had a meeting with Lou Wasserman. And I was showing him the Tel 3000, which we all saw, my device that turned out to be the iPad later on. So Lou Wasserman's looking at this device, and he has 3 or 4 of his techno guys. In case you didn't know, Lou Wasserman was the CEO and president of Universal. So he was one of the most powerful guys in the business. So I showed this to him, and he says to me, Ron Howard is not going to allow us to stream his movies on a screen that small. I mean, I'll never forget it. It was like the night it was like ringing in my head. He says, that's ludicrous, he says. No one's going to watch movies or television shows on a screen that small. So lo and behold, everybody raised their hand in this class that everyone's watching movies. So people's minds, can be persuaded. It can change. So a lot of these Hollywood people, who thought that years ago that it wouldn't be streamed, and the same thing that happened in the music business. This was the first year in the last 15 years that the music industry actually caught up to where they were years ago when they used to sell albums. Okay, when we were in the business, we would rent this DVD or sell this DVD for $20, $30, and we'd keep half the money.
Right.
So that went away. So how the movie business works, there's various windows before we have to leave. The first window is in the movie theaters. Okay? We weren't even sure whether this movie was going to make it in the movie theaters, but we did have it in the movie theaters for about 3 or 4 weekends. Okay? And what does that do? The number one thing it does, it gives us the visibility so that when it goes on the next window, which is the pay-per-view via the cable networks, that's the next window. Okay? So let's say a movie is playing in Regal Theaters and it's $10 a movie. Okay? The distributor, the manufacturer, the producers of the movie get half of that. So $5 goes to the theater and $5 goes to the creator of the content. Okay? The same thing happens in the next window. So the pay-per-view window. Okay? So Comcast streams you the latest movie. You pay $5.95 for the HD version of that. Half the money goes to the content provider. Gets a lot more difficult now when it goes through Netflix. Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and streaming, they're no longer getting the big bucks unless you're a big film out there. I mean, years ago, we made money. Do you remember what the budget was for this movie?
Yeah. Am I supposed to tell everybody?
Go ahead.
2.5 million. Ended up being 2.8 with the tax credit.
So $2.8 million with big name stars, in this movie. A lot of them were waiting in the back end to get a lot of their big money. And as Sue said, you can, if you have access to great material, okay? Let's just say that Spike Lee was your buddy from the hood, and Spike's looking to get the next deal done, okay? That relationship could lead you to getting an actor who wants to work with Spike Lee, you know, at a reduced rate, so that your movie has a chance of hitting it big. So it's not like you need to pay Tom Cruise $30 million in cash to get him in. You know, we made a movie, The Illusionist, where big name stars like Edward Norton and Paul Giamatti and Jessica Biel were waiting in the back end. If and when the movie made money, they would get their share of the dollar. So that's another way you can make a great movie.
And now a lot of people are doing that because now budgets are so small in terms of that low budget thing that stars are taking a big chunk of the pie, and we're all basically betting on ourselves now. That we're
Correct, and which segues into where YouTube and the influencers are, and the Kim Kardashians of the world, and the other influencers, especially in the makeup field, who are taking away business that would normally go either to filmmakers or to broadcast studios, you know, or even to Facebook. I mean, a lot more time is being spent on YouTube or on making movies with your Apple 7, okay, like Paranormal, you know, and then finding an audience, whether it's going to be online, whether it's going to be through Facebook, whether it's going to be your influencers, or through Hulu. There's many more ways you can get your product out there than before. All right, very good. I want to thank Sue for coming into class today. Thank you very much, man. Our movie is out there. Sorry about the homework. That was definitely my bad. I had left for Florida that day and I did not get it up. But it will be up. There'll be 2 weeks worth of homework, so take your time on getting them out there. Have a great week. Thank you.